Hello and good evening from Luxembourg, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's absolutely great to be back again. And this time we are actually doing an Ask Me Anything on request. So as many of you probably know, in the unofficial Telegram group, there was a discussion quite a while back where people asked loads of questions regarding tokenomics. And usually these Telegram groups are not the best platform for answering extensive questions like that also deserve an extensive answer then. And so we promised that we are going to do an Ask Me Anything. And here we are. I will admit it took us quite a while this time to get it set up, but the past months were incredibly busy. And I think you have seen the results, or at least some of the results. There's definitely more to come. But subscriptions, the eVault, memberships, Ethereum integration, all of that happened in the last months. All the more I'm happy that I'm here live with you today again. And by the way, since you're all here, I would like to mention that we have just started a new Telegram group, an official announcement group, where we are going to post all of the news surrounding eCredits and the ecosystem. So you can join us there for more information. It is just an announcement channel, so it's not a discussion group. It will not replace the unofficial group, but it is another way to follow all of the information that we are releasing on a daily basis. And Nikita will be posting the Telegram, or has already posted the Telegram link in the channel. So if you haven't done so already, you can click that link and join now. Good. So for those of you that are joining and Ask Me Anything for the first time, I will give you a quick explanation on what an Ask Me Anything actually is. Essentially, it is our living room atmosphere opportunity where we all just casually sit together and can talk. You can ask questions. I will answer them to the best of my abilities. And sometimes I do disclose a bit more information than I should, but I guess that's part of the game. As usual, I will be starting by answering some of the questions that you sent us up front. There were quite some very interesting ones and some extensive ones, but I will make sure that we will get through them. And if we have time left by the end of the Ask Me Anything, then I will take some more questions that you can post right now in the chat, actually. So I see that some of you have already started doing that. If you do not have started that yet, feel free to post any kind of questions. We will go through them at the end if we have time left. Usually we're running quite low on time towards the end, but I will make sure that I will take at least some of them. So yeah, if you already have a question, feel free to post it now. Our team in the background will pick the most asked ones and I will then try to answer them. Okay, and without further ado, let's jump right in with the first question. And that is actually already quite an extensive one. So I apologize. I will try to get through them in a reasonable amount of time, but tokenomics is quite a complicated topic. So some of the questions might require a bit more time to answer them in a way that also makes sense and give you sufficient background for you to have all the information that is required to get a proper answer. And the first question is, what makes the eCredits model sustainable in the long run? And sustainability is a very broad term here, but I will just go ahead and assume that you're talking about sustainability in terms of price and supply, because that's what we are usually talking about when we're talking sustainability in the crypto market. So the first thing that we have to establish is that the price of a currency is a very arbitrary number. So it's the price alone doesn't really have to say anything. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The two most important ones being the price is determined by the last trade. So if I'm doing a trade on an exchange, whatever price I'm doing the trade for is going to be the displayed price of that currency. And in some markets, that price could be way off from what it actually would be in a more liquid market or things like that. So yeah, the price is always determined by the last trades. And the second one is the price alone is utterly useless if you do not factor in the circulating supply. The circulating supply being the amount of units of a specific currency that is available on the market. And the connection between the price and the circulating supply is, if you have a lot of units out there, then the price will generally be lower than if you have a very few amount of units out there. As an example, I guess we can all agree Bitcoin is awesome, first cryptocurrency out there. And I would bet you $10 million right now that I can create a currency that is worth more than Bitcoin in less than a day. when we measure value by the price. How would I do that? I will create a single unit of a completely new currency. It's called the Blaha currency for that matter. And I will put it in a liquidity pool on a decentralized exchange and buy it for the equivalent of 60,000 euros, for example. Done. The last trade was for 1 unit of that currency being valued at 60,000 euros. So it's now worth more than Bitcoin, right? Of course, that doesn't make any sense, but that's how these kind of things work. And that's why I'm always begging people to be careful when they just measure the price. Okay, that was quite an excursus into essentially market economics and so on and so forth. But generally, what is important is the price and the supply. Now, price is solely influenced by the supply and demand. So more people want to buy a cryptocurrency than want to sell that cryptocurrency, the price rises. If more people want to sell than buy, then the price drops. That's generally how this works. The supply, however, is influenced by the tokenomics. And one of our major play points that we have at eCredits in regards to tokenomics is the e-activity. So the tokenomics are built in a way that less demand equals less growth in supply. So the less eCredits are being used for actual shopping, the less the supply will grow. And that means the less what would generally be referred to as inflation we do have on eCredits. And if more eCredits are used, then the inflation goes higher. That is because more e-activity are essentially exchanged into eCredits. And that means more supply of eCredits on the market and thus high inflation. And that is also why we are very sustainable solely from a tokenomics perspective, right? If we don't have a lot of growth in the usage of eCredits, there will not be a lot of inflation. There will be basically no inflation. And that is how we try to maintain the sustainability without interfering. So we don't really have a say in how many e-activity are exchanged once they are being able to be once you are able to exchange them. This is all fully automated, and this is also because that is usually a question I get: when does the e-activity exchange go live? That is also the reason we have not done that so far. We are ready technically to release it anytime, but we want this to be sustainable. When we start the e-activity to eCredits exchange, we need to have some specific amount of usage on the eCredits blockchain to make it sustainable. Otherwise, what would happen is in the long term, it would drop the price of eCredits. And I think we can all agree that this is nothing that we would like to code into the tokenomics, if you will. So that was quite a long answer to the first question already. Jumping to the second one, what makes the eCredits model unique and different from other crypto? There's a lot of topics right there, but essentially what I would say is the main part is the focus that we have. I often say that we are explicitly not, and I emphasize on this again, we are not an Ethereum killer. Because there are already 50 Ethereum killers out there, there's no need to build the 51st Ethereum killer, right? So what we do different is the entire ecosystem that we are building. I've been in crypto for almost 9 years, and for crypto, that is a rather long time, I have to say. And I have seen a lot of projects. I've seen a lot of payment systems. I've seen a lot of cryptocurrencies out there. What I've not seen, however, is a proper ecosystem that allows transactions with merchants to be done as easily, as quickly, and as cheaply as we are doing that. Like that specific focus that we have on loyalty and on shopping, that is something that really differentiates us. And in my opinion, that is a very straightforward use case, right? Because the underlying proposition of cryptocurrencies is that it's very easy to transfer values from one person or one entity to the other. And the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, why not go shopping then? And the reason for that is it's complicated. Until some time ago, it was also expensive. There's still a rumor out there. Cryptocurrencies are expensive. That's not the case anymore. But it's still complicated. You have to manage your employees, for example. If you have multiple employees at a merchant and you want all of them to essentially accept cryptocurrencies, and you're doing it straight on a blockchain, usually what happens is you have to give them your private key. What stops them from just running off with your funds? And it's tiny things like that where blockchain and cryptocurrencies themselves do not really fulfill the expectations towards user experience and user interfaces that we have and that merchants should have towards transaction system nowadays. And that is essentially what differentiates us quite a lot. There's way more to talk about here, of course, but if you want one thing that differentiates us and that is very unique about eCredits, that different from other cryptocurrencies, it's definitely our iron-willed focus on shopping and loyalty. And that is what we're doing. That is what eCredits stands for, and that is what we are doing way better than anybody else out there. So next question, what would help to avoid the high volatility of eCredits compared to other cryptocurrencies and make it a fitting currency for daily transactions and shopping? So firstly, and that really has to be said, compared to other cryptocurrencies, eCredits has a rather low volatility. But there is volatility that cannot be denied, and I'm openly talking about that. I like talking about that actually, because that is a problem for merchants, and we are solving it. So why is it a problem for merchants in the first place? Imagine you are a merchant, and imagine a customer comes into your shop and buys a product for, let's say, 10 euros. And at the end of the day, that amount of eCredits that you received is worth 11 euros or 9 euros. And while you may say, okay, that's great, it's still a counting effort, even if it goes up. And in both cases, you have taken a risk. And that is something we allow you to completely take out of the equation with instant trade if you want that. Not everybody wants that. Some people want to have that exposure because they have the expectation that eCredits might go up and then they would like to have that exposure. That's great. We will never take that away from you. But if you don't want that exposure, we also give merchants the possibility to take away that exposure completely, essentially, by using instant trade. Instant trade meaning that when the customer comes in, you sell a good for 10 euros to them, the funds don't even arrive on your wallet, they arrive on an exchange right away, where they are exchanged into euros immediately. That's how it works, and there's basically the volatility risk taken out for the merchants, and that's great because we're solving yet another problem that other cryptocurrencies might have. And then how does eVault benefit the eCredits model development? So I do assume that with eCredits model development, what you mean is like the whole tokenomics and how eCredits economics work overall and how eVault benefits that. So there's a couple of things regarding that. The first one being, we very often got the question, hey, can I stake my eCredits? And the answer to this day is no, you cannot. And there's a couple of, in my opinion, very good reasons why you cannot stake eCredits. So there's two ways or two things that are generally referred to as staking. The first one is a proof of stake blockchain, which is, I would say, even considering Polkadot and all of that has been here for a couple of years now, that is still a rather recent development. And that is something that we are looking into, by the way. So I will say that now. eCredits might in the future switch to a proof of stake model. So that is definitely something that is in the realm of possibilities. And these proof of stake blockchains, they work. So that's a good thing. Proof of stake blockchains, great. I like that. Problem there is you cannot really peg the inflation to the usage of the currency just like we did, right? Because you still have that coded in inflation. So for example, at Ethereum, you have the difficulty ramp ups, or at Bitcoin, you have the halvings, stuff like that. You still have a hard coded amount of inflation happening. And that is something that doesn't really fit into the whole eCredits ecosystem. But that's something we can talk about another time, or if you're interested, post it as a question. We'll talk about it in the end because I'm going away from the actual question. How does the eVault benefit? The second model of staking, and that is way more common right now actually, is you go to a centralized entity, say for example an exchange, and you give them your money, and then you get a fixed return for that, right? And the return has to come from somewhere, right? So exchanges don't just give you free money just because they can. I mean, in some cases they do for marketing purposes, but usually the money comes from somewhere. And usually, and we've seen that at FTX, for example, that means that the currency is being given away to a third party. That might be a market maker, but that might also be an investment vehicle that is taking a lot of risk. And if they go down, like Alameda Research, guess whose money is on the line? It's not the exchanges, it's not the investment vehicles money, it's your money that you have staked. So in many cases, staking on exchanges is very insecure. So what we did with eVault is we wanted to make a more secure alternative. And that is why when you eVault something, the funds are in a smart contract. So whenever you want, you can check in the smart contract where your funds are and that nothing happened to them, essentially. That's how things work. And with that, you have a guarantee that you get back the money because we cannot touch it. Nobody else can touch that money. It is in that smart contract, period. That is a big difference between eVaulting and staking. So in my opinion, eVaulting is the much more secure alternative. So what effects does eVaulting have? Well, besides the many requests that we got where people told us, hey, I would like to have staking, that we have fulfilled with that. We have done another step or taken another step, and that is currencies that are, or eCredits that are in the eVault, they are away from the market for the lockup period, which is a year, right? And within that year, essentially, these eCredits are guaranteed not to be sold because they are in the smart contract, they cannot be touched. So what we're doing is we're taking away sell pressure from the market with eVaulting as well. And that is something that tokenomically speaking will also aid the price development of eCredits. So I hope that answers the question. Are there any more benefits for Gold and Platinum subscribers planned in the future? Short answer, yes. So we are currently working on quite some of them. You will especially receive a lot of information. You will get some opportunities that only subscribers will get. Keep your eyes and ears open for that. Follow our social media channels. We will announce them as time comes. But yes, there will definitely be more benefits for Gold and Platinum subscribers in the future. The next question is, where do you see the benefits of using cryptocurrencies such as eCredits versus fiat payments? So that's one that I talk about very often. And to me, there's 3.5 benefits, I always call it, when we're talking eCredits versus credit cards, for example. So first of all, eCredits is cheaper than credit cards. When you look at the eCredits flow of funds, so to say, from the wallet of the consumer to the wallet of the merchant, it takes no more than, actually, that the fees are about 0.6% that are being paid. And that is very little compared, sorry, I just have to put in my focus mode here because I'm getting notifications. There we go. So sorry about that. It takes about 0.6% in fees, which is about 1/3 of what a credit card on average charges. Some credit cards charge a bit less, some charge a bit more, but in general, we are much cheaper. The second one is we are much faster. With credit cards, those of you that are merchants probably know, it usually takes a couple of working days at least until the money is on your account. With eCredits, it takes all of about 4 seconds or so, and the money is on your account, done. That's it. So second benefit, as a merchant, you can much more quickly use the funds because you have the liquidity on your account right away, period. That's it. The third one is it's much more secure. So I will admit, before I even say it, that this comparison is not the best comparison, but it's still very valid in my opinion. With credit cards, when you go purchase something, the way you purchase it is you give the other party your private key, because your private key is the credit card number that is on the credit card. You have the expiration date and you have the security code. All of those on the credit card. So if you have the credit card, you might not be able to purchase something at a terminal, but you would be able to purchase something online with the credit card, which is an inherent security flaw. With a cryptocurrency like eCredits, on the other hand, you don't have that. You never give away your private key. And by the way, let me use this opportunity to remind you of this again. Never give your private key to anyone. Our support will never ask for your private key. Our employees will never ask for that. Nobody that has your best interest at mind will ever ask for your private key. That is yours. Keep it safe. Don't lose it, but never, ever give it to somebody else. So that said, you never give that to somebody, so there can never be credit card fraud in the same way. Because nobody ever gets your private key. And that, on the other hand, for merchants means that they will never get chargebacks. Chargebacks being essentially a person coming to the credit card provider saying, hello, somebody just stole my credit card and used it to purchase whatever, and I never made that purchase. And the credit card company goes ahead and says, okay, we'll give you the money back, and the person that usually pays for that is the merchant. And that is, of course, a big disadvantage. And the other, the half of a benefit, when I say 3.5, is the loyalty system that we have. And that is not just going towards the benefit of the consumer, but also towards the merchant. So when a consumer purchases something at a merchant, they get about 1% back in e-activity. And if they purchase something, or if somebody purchases something at the merchant gets 0.5% as well. So both parties are rewarded by the loyalty system if eCredits is being used. So that's the main benefits. Once again, much more to talk about, but I see we're already 25 minutes in, so trying to hurry up a bit here. Will eVault be ongoing, or will it stop after a few cycles? So eVault will definitely be reappearing. I cannot promise that it will always be there 100% of the time. There may be periods when it will not be possible to eVault new funds, but it will be coming back. It will be recurring. So don't worry if you're not in yet. First of all, there's still a campaign ongoing, so you can still get in there. That was very important to us, that everybody has the chance to get in there. And other than that, it will definitely be coming back. Of course, you will get the most out of the eVault if you have a platinum subscription, because then you get a 6% reward instead of a 2%. And also you have the chance to get in 2 hours earlier than if you don't have a subscription. How many eCredits are in the eVault now? I don't have the latest very accurate number, but if I recall correctly, it should be a bit more than 50 million eCredits right now, which is quite substantial actually. And that is in the eVault alone. So that's great. I'm very happy to see that much interest into the eVault. So thank you all for supporting us on that end. Really amazing. When I saw the first couple of campaigns, I was always watching them, and we thought we would put in a lot of money, and suddenly everything was gone after, what was it, like 16 seconds? So some people were actually there, and the whole eVaulting thing was done within a matter of 16 seconds, which is absolutely crazy to me still. So I'm very happy that now we have a longer running campaign ongoing. So if you haven't had the chance to get into the eVault, now there's your chance. Okay, the next question, that was actually a very long one that contained many questions. I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities. I believe that large cooperatives with daily needs are necessary for turnover to be on a respectable level. I do know that everyone can be an ambassador for eCredits and get shops in the system. That is true. I think this is a good approach for small businesses, but for large corporations, I see an advantage that there are professional agents approaching them in order to avoid misunderstandings and false information that might affect the outcome. Do eCredits approach or have plans to have meetings with these large corporations? Yes, absolutely. So some of you might have met him already because he is on quite a lot of events, but we do have a head of key accounting called Lulcimas Asanowski, or we call him Luki internally. And he's our head of key accounting. He is the one that is talking to bigger companies like that. And he's doing a very good job. He's on his way in Austria, in Slovenia, in Italy, and in many more countries. And when it comes to bigger corporations, then he's the one that essentially builds the contact to them and talks to them and tries to get them onboarded. And that is actually something that is very important for the ambassadors out there to know. If there's a company that you know that is very big, we always call it a lighthouse company, like a brand that is very international, very impressive, you can also always contact us at support, and we will forward you to Luki, so he can help you in onboarding these bigger corporations. So yes, that is definitely a goal. We are working on that. And you can also essentially ask us for help in that regard, and we are always happy to help out when it comes to bigger corporations to be onboarded with eCredits. That said, however, and that is the reason why you don't see a lot of brands on eCredits yet, usually for these big corporations, when we're talking international companies, when we're talking companies with hundreds of employees, it usually takes a while because it needs to be integrated. It needs to be into their systems. It needs to be taught to the employees. It needs to go through compliance. It needs to go through the finance department. So it is coming. We are working on that, but it does take a while. But I'm not too worried. You are going to see some results of that quite soon. Then the question continues. If yes, can you say anything how far away we are from seeing these as acceptance points? I think I just answered that. I cannot make any promises here, but we are working on it, and I do expect some results very soon. And of course, there will be some countries where it will be earlier. There will be some countries where it might take a bit longer, but we're working on it, and we're getting to every country over time. And also in the same question, is there a plan in the future to include USA and UK in the eCredits project? So this is more of a legal question than tokenomics question, but I will still answer it here. The USA is difficult because they don't really have proper guidance in regards to what you should do when you're a company like ours to be actually legal in the US. And as I think most of you know, we have a very thorough approach when it comes to regulation. So we always try to make everything correctly, to do everything correctly. We try to get on board with all the regulations that there are. If it's unclear, we try to get clarification from the regulators. And in the USA, that simply is not really possible because the regulator, the SEC there, is not very responsive and not very clear when it comes to things like that. So I would like to include the USA. I would love to actually, but right now legally it's not really possible. And it's a similar situation in the UK. However, the UK is a bit more clear when it comes to that. And so I will say that we have sent a request to the FCA in the UK, which is the local regulator there. And we asked them if what we are doing is actually in accordance to their current regulation and legislation. And I hope we will get an answer there soon-ish. And then depending on that, we can start operating in the UK or not. I will say, however, from experience with regulators, it might take months, in some cases even years, before we get a satisfying response. So don't hold your breath. It might take quite a while. So that was all of the questions that you have sent up front. Thank you very much for that. There were some really interesting questions in there. Much appreciated that you sent them up front. And yeah, for the next AMA, if you want your question to be in there, definitely make sure that you send them to us up front, because then I can guarantee that they can be in the AMA. With that said, actually, we are over time already, but of course, I promise that we will take some of the questions that were posted. So I will start going through them now. And the first one is, are the first votings happening this year? Sorry, I don't see the names right now, but the first question is, are the first votings happening this year? Yes, definitely the first votings will happen this year. And actually, this is something that is not too far off. So it's a question that I frequently get asked. Of course, the SCE membership, so becoming a member of the SCE, will give you a lot of control over the SCE. And that is something we are working on. And we always try to find the balance between bringing out new features product-wise or developing these kind of things. And we're trying to balance that. But what I can tell you is very, very soon, there will be an announcement in that regard, and actually quite some developments in that regard. I have actually seen people discuss applying as a delegate already in the Telegram group, and two of them have actually already announced their candidacy. One from Portugal, one from Italy. So that is much appreciated. I really appreciate that the two of you especially are that dedicated to eCredits. That is amazing to see. And I hope to be able to greet you as delegates soon. What delegates are, how they work, and so on. There will be a lot of material about that in the very near future. So once again, I have to say it, follow our social media channels and you will get all the information there as soon as we make it public. When will we see other instant trades than euro? That is a very big and very good question. So a couple of steps back here. Why would we need other instant trades than euro? So right now, our strongest area is within the European Union. or let's say within Europe, even in non-European Union countries. And the problem is that to enable instant trade with other currencies than euro, we would need to have a currency pair. And a currency pair in that case means nothing but there's just like there is an eCredits euro pair, there would be a eCredits whatever pair. So a lot of requests that we're getting is the British pound, the Swiss franc, the Polish zloty, the Macedonian dinar, the Swedish crown, the Norwegian crown, and whatnot. So lots of different currencies that we would like to integrate. And of course, the very obvious benefit is you don't need to exchange whatever currency you're using to euro to buy eCredits, and the merchant, on the other hand, doesn't need to exchange eCredits to euro and then exchange it to whatever currency they are using. So the benefits are quite obvious. The problem, however, is all of these currencies compared to the euro are relatively small. And that means that there are not a lot of exchanges that have currency pairs with that specific fiat currency. And if there's not an exchange, then we cannot really offer an instant trade for that currency pair because we simply do not have a marketplace where we can exchange eCredits for that currency pair or for that currency. That said, if you are in a country, especially when it comes to Europe, that does use a currency other than the euro, and you have an exchange that is willing to onboard projects like the eCredits, then feel free to send the contact of that exchange to the support, and we will try to get in touch with them. And then usually, I will also say that very openly, usually it takes a couple of months until the exchange is able to list us, and then we can start looking into also building an instant trade for that other currency pair. So that is why we don't currently have that. According to me, I would love to have that. I would actually onboard all the currencies where we have users, but unfortunately, it's not that straightforward. We need an exchange, we need a currency pair, and then we can implement instant trade for other currencies. Even if you don't have an exchange that offers the currency pair, though, feel free to send us that feedback to our support. We always note that down because for us also it's important to understand where do we have the highest demand, what currency do we have the highest demand for, because that is of course where we will put the most effort to getting it done. So that is that question. How is eVault secure and how can I be sure that my funds are safe? So I think I've partially answered that already. The reason why eVault is secure is because nobody has access to the funds. So depending on how familiar you are with blockchain, there's actually the website or the Explorer, the eCredits Explorer. I will just quickly post it in the chat here. I hope everybody can see that now, in case you don't know that. This is where the eCredits Explorer is. And what the eCredits Explorer does is it allows you to look at every single transaction on the blockchain. So when you want to be sure that your funds are safe, then what you can do is you take your public address, your wallet address, you enter it to the Explorer. And what you will then see is the transaction where you started eVaulting, meaning where your funds went away from your wallet and went into the smart contract. And you can follow that transaction, so you can click on it, you see where it ended up, and you will see that the destination of your funds is a smart contract. And you can see that from this smart contract, the only time any funds ever leave it is when we're paying out rewards to the users, or when the smart contract, it's not us doing that, it's the smart contract. When a smart contract is paying out rewards to the users, or when somebody has finished their lockup period and can withdraw the funds from the smart contract. So that's essentially how that works. You can see all of that completely 100% transparently, and essentially can follow the flow of funds and see that they are not leaving that smart contract. With that said, it's very important because the smart contract is holding quite a substantial amount of funds that the smart contract is safe, of course, which is the reason why we have been doing 2 completely independent audits. And I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think we are releasing the results, or at least the audit result, or have done so already. I'm not sure about it, to be honest. I would have to check that. But yeah, essentially, we have done everything to make sure the funds are secure and that the funds are moved nowhere unless you actually make them move. Will the first general assembly of the People's SCE be online or held somewhere? That is oh, now I see the names. Perfect. So that is a question from Dimitar. Thanks for asking the question. And the last question, by the way, was from Gregor. So thank you for asking the question as well. So will the first general assembly of the People's SCE be online or held somewhere? Well, for legal requirements, it will have to be held somewhere. That is also where the delegates come into play that I mentioned before. Again, more information about the delegates will follow publicly very soon, but it will be a physical assembly. However, what I'm looking into, and I think that makes a lot of sense, is either recording it and then putting it live, or maybe even live streaming it. No promises at this point, but I think it would be a good idea to have something like that done. So yeah, and by the way, that will be until the middle of the year latest. So not too long to go until the General Assembly starts. Is there a plan for a burning process? No, we don't have a plan for a burning process, simply because essentially the fees on the eCredits blockchain are very low. So the only ways we could do a burning process is by either taking away from the users, which is something we definitely don't want to do, or taking away from the nodes. However, the nodes are working on a rather tight margin. So rather than having a burning process, that would come out of that essentially, what we decided to do is, hey, let's make the transactions cheaper instead. And this is what we have done, right? So from an economics perspective, this is the choice. Increase the transaction costs, so some amount of money pools somewhere, so it can later be burned, or make the transactions cheaper in the first place and don't have any overhead. And we've chosen the latter, cheaper transactions, nothing to burn, and this is what we're doing. On the other hand, what we're doing in exchange is we have a very low amount of inflation, of new supply that is added to the circulating supply every year. So a couple more questions I think I can take, maybe one or two. So the next one is, instant trading is perfect. I'll wait level up because I'm merchant and our fiat isn't euro, but the Macedonian dinar. I need dinar on my bank account, something like payment provider. What is your opinion about this? I think that is pretty much what I just answered. So the Macedonian dinar, for example, is a currency. We have a lot of demand for that. So a lot of people from Macedonia keep asking, hey, when can we start with eCredits? And I would like to say, right now, please go ahead. But to be honest, in Macedonia, there are no exchanges that offer the Macedonian dinar, and this is exactly the problem I described before. We are working on solutions. We want to make that happen ASAP, but right now we do not have any exchanges. If you know exchanges there, and no exchanges, especially that offer a dinar pair for cryptocurrencies, please let us know. I'd be very happy to get introduced to them and work with them to also add Macedonia to our community, because you guys are sending a lot of love and I like that. It's amazing how much input we are getting from Macedonia. Keep up the great work. It's absolutely amazing. And that question came from Goran, so thanks for that. The next question is, will there be too few eCredits nodes soon, or have you sold enough to handle the increasing shopping we hope to see? So, clarification here. More eCredits nodes do not necessarily mean more throughput on a transaction side. So essentially one node could handle the same amount of transactions as a million nodes. What nodes do is they make for more decentralization. So if there's only one node, one person controls the entire blockchain, which is nothing that we want, right? If there is 50 nodes, then that means that 50 individual persons control the blockchain. Much better. And so more nodes mean more security, more decentralization. Great thing, it doesn't mean more throughput. But don't worry about the throughput. I am very confident to say that whatever amount of transaction volume you can throw at us, we will deal with it. We will handle it and take that as a challenge. So if we ever have too many transactions for the eCredits blockchain, I don't know, you won the bet. I don't think it's going to happen. because the eCredits blockchain is amazing in terms of throughput. So when you look at the ranking of how many transactions per second can any blockchain handle, and you take out all of the centralized blockchains that are out there that actually only have 1 or 2 or 3 nodes, or all the nodes are controlled by one organization. If you take all of them out of the ranking and look at decentralized blockchains only, then we are way up there in the ranking. So we can handle a lot of transactions, take my word for it. And that question, I don't see the name for, unfortunately. The next one is from Rogerio. You have been in, I think, every single Ask Me Anything. So thanks again for coming back and being here again. Great to have you here. And the question is, thank you for all your good work and the work of the team. Let's put the power of the money in the hand of the people. Well, that's not a question, but I can do nothing but agree 100%. And yeah, so I think, okay, there's one more question. I will take that one. Do you think it is easy to bring a lot more merchants on board to accept eCredits? So I think it's getting easier and easier every month. The reason for that is a lot of you have been here from the beginning, and I know that. And in the beginning, we had some problems. I will be the last one to deny that because there were some problems in the beginning. But thanks to the amazing feedback that you gave and all the power that you brought into that by pushing eCredits further and further, by now eCredits is working amazingly well. So the feedback we get of people using it every day is really, really good. There are no problems on an everyday basis. And if there are slight problems, then they usually don't stop people from using eCredits. So eCredits right now is working very well. Additionally, we are frequently releasing new things that help merchants to be onboarded better and essentially get more customers towards them. The first one, or the last one, being instant trade. Then the next one, well, should I tease that? I'm not sure if I should tease that. Well, I will tease it a little bit. And I hope my marketing and communication team is not going to kill me for it. But what I will say is one of the next announcements that we are going to make is in connection to something that probably all of you have in your wallet. And that's all I'm going to say. And I think that's a very good question to end this. We are 15 minutes over the time already anyway. So thank you very much. As usual, it was very interesting. I will make sure that we are going to do another Ask Me Anything soon. If you have specific topics that you would like to talk about, please feel free to post them into the unofficial Telegram group. As you know, I am quite active there. You can also send them to our customer service, and we will also make sure that we will take these into consideration. And other than that, feel free to keep using the eVault as much as you have been doing. It's amazing to see all of that. It's also amazing to see how much you all like the Platinum subscriptions. We will make sure that we are going to make this much better over time, even than they are now. And other than that, keep shopping with eCredits. The volume is increasing frequently, and I love to see that. So thanks for doing that. Keep doing it, and have a good evening. Bye.